Welcome to the Republican Professor this morning for me in California, and this afternoon for our guest in New Jersey. We have a special guest, Danka Kissell, a new U.S. citizen, has agreed to join us and tell us about that whole thing about becoming a United States citizen. Welcome, Danka.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Lucas, is that how I should? Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes people just call me idiot, and then I turn around
right.
either way. So,
Well, I heard about you for the first time from somebody who said there is an intelligent professor who is really very interesting to know. So, and I think I heard about you from Lance Wallnau. You might have a group of people who really...
we had Lance on the podcast. I've known Lance for many years, and in fact, I think you're talking about Lance Wallnau Sr. Because I know his son, who has the same name, Junior, Lance Wallnau Jr. I've known him for even longer because I was his professor at Pepperdine University.
So maybe he told his dad about you.
Yes, that's how it happened, I think. I had Lance Jr. in class there at Pepperdine. This would have been 12 or 13 years ago, something like that. I think 13 years ago. And he was a delightful kid to have in class, very fine sense of humor. That's what I remember about him, was he was very, very, he laughed at everything I said. So that means he's got a very sophisticated sense of humor. And and then I was friends with him on Facebook for a few years, and then I got a friend request from a guy named Lance Wallnau, and I was like, wait, I thought we were already friends. I wonder what happened. Did he accidentally defriend me or something? Maybe I offended him and he changed his mind or something. But I couldn't imagine Lance Jr. getting offended by anything I would ever say. So it was puzzling to me. And then I saw that I was still friends with Lance Jr. So maybe this is a fake account. But then I looked and he appeared to be a real person because he had something like 40,000 followers or something, 50. I thought, this cannot be a fake account, this guy. And it looked like he was some kind of preacher or something. So I was like, oh, this is his dad, the same name. Okay, I got it. So then we connected, and that was awesome. And the dad is like, the son wasn't offended by anything I was saying, I don't think. Anyway, and then eventually I met him in person. It took a few years, but then he started posting things that are more political. And now his following on, I don't really like that term follower. It sounds kind of dumb. I don't like the term, but the people that keep track of what he's doing are connected to him. They are now 20 times what when we first connected. I think he's got something like 1 million people following.
Okay, yeah.
Maybe a little bit less, maybe like 800,000 or something. But so it's an honor to know you. We've gone back and forth online a few times, and someone had mentioned, I think it was your husband, because I'm connected with him as well, mentioned that you were becoming a United States citizen, and you became a United States citizen very recently.
Yes.
Like within the last month, right?
Yes, end of May.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Are you proud?
I didn't think it would make any difference, but it did make me happy. And suddenly I started feeling like I belong, which was amazing.
You do belong. You're one of
I had
us.
no idea. Yes.
Yeah, you're one of us.
And my friends started reminding me that anytime I criticize anything about America, like you Americans, that I have to say now, we Americans do this. So I can't blame anybody else anymore.
You'll have to come up with different words like communists,
Yes.
because there are communists here.
Oh,
And there
please.
are people that would like to change America into something that's not America. So,
well, I have to, I don't know how to start this, but, you know, my story started right after the fall of communism. When I came here as a student, it was summer of 1990.
how old were you?
22. And
okay, so you
know
you had good you were old enough to have memories.
yes, definitely, yes. But you know, the fall of communism was rather fresh. For those that don't remember, it was fall of 1989, when the changes took place in Germany and then slowly in what used to be Czechoslovakia. Now it is, I mean, it used to be two countries within Czechoslovakia, but now it is two countries. But back
Tell
then
us
it
what
was
those
still
two
one.
countries are again.
There are two nations within the same nation. It's Czech nation and Slovak nation. They have two different languages. They are very similar, and Slovak nation is smaller, and Czech nation is bigger, twice as big. And people used to refer to Slovaks as Czechs.
Okay.
For the longest period of time.
And the Soviets were the ones that put them together in the same republic. Is that right?
No, actually, Soviets didn't have anything to do with it. So there was an Austrian-Hungarian Empire before that covered all the little nations within the empire. And all those countries that are in Europe that used to be called Central Europe or Eastern Europe used to be part of this huge empire under the, you know, I'm not a historian, so if I say something that is incorrect, I don't want people to kill me. But that little bit that I know is that for 1,000 years,
you're out of the womb, so you're relatively safe here in America.
Yeah, so I mean, from what I remember, it had been for 1,000 years that the empire has, what would be the correct word? I don't want to say oppressed, but in some way governed over the little nations and kind of try to make them to be one.
Yeah.
And sometimes it meant that they try to make them to use the main language and forget their own, and all kinds of other tendencies. But
Danka, can we start with where you were born and what language did you learn as your mother language?
Okay. So I was born in a little town that is very near the Ukrainian border of Slovakia, because Slovakia borders with Ukraine. And I was born in 1967. And
what was the name of the town? What's the name of the town?
It's Michael. It's
Michael?
like Michael, and then OVCE. Yeah, Michalovce. That's what it is called. It's a
Michalovce?
OVCE. Like Michael, OVCE. Michalovce. It's a small town. Yes.
Small town. Okay.
In the eastern part of the country.
What do you mean by small? How many people?
Oh, I have no idea, but
two people?
It's
you and
small.
your mom?
It's tiny.
Hundreds?
Thousands? I would
Thousands?
say like maybe 50,000. You want me to Google?
Okay. No, it's fine. That's fine. No, I was trying to get a sense of how small a town this is. Is this Little House on the Prairie, or is it?
Okay,
is it more
so
like,
just to give you some comparison, Bratislava, which is the capital of Slovakia, has about 500,000
Okay.
Of people, and it's the largest city of the country.
Oh, so is the country rural? A lot of farmland, or
Mostly rural, yes,
is
and
it
very mountainous. So
mountainous? Okay.
yes.
Yeah. So is not a lot of farms then?
The lower part that is bordering with Hungary has a lot of lowlands that are very fertile, and that's
Okay.
where you have a lot of farms. But everybody's farming. It's a very, it's still very agro, you say, community. Like everybody has their own gardens, and everybody still knows how to plant stuff and grow stuff.
Did you have chickens?
Well, my
Or
parents moved to the city, so we lived in the city.
okay.
So I don't, I know my grandmother had chickens and pigs and everything, and every summer I would spend there. But I myself grew up in a city. My dad is a professor, or was a professor, so we lived in the city.
What city was that?
It's the capital of Slovakia. It's pronounced Bratislava, Bratislava, and it's about an hour away from Vienna.
What did your dad teach?
Psychology.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. What was that like, having a psychology professor dad?
Oh, well, that's that's a whole another topic.
Okay. Well, we don't have to get into that if you don't want to. Interesting.
No,
So,
I just I thought, yes. I think
would you like to lay
it
on the
made me
couch
to
while
be
you tell us
very.
this? Would you like to lay on the couch while you tell us this story? So,
I did enough of that, yeah.
so your mother language is Slovakian? Is that how you say it?
Yes.
Okay. And do you speak any other
Um,
languages besides
I
English?
thought it was, yes, I just, well, everybody who grew up in behind the Iron Curtain had to learn Russian. So when I counted all the years of learning Russian, I think it ended up to 12 years of Russian, but I can't really speak it because our way of resenting the oppression was not to learn the language properly.
Oh, wow. That's funny. You probably could
Yeah.
understand quite a bit of it, though.
It's quite passive. When I started learning English, which was quite late in my life, it kind of pushed out the Russian, which was surprising. And I never picked the Russian back. So,
Доброе утро, девушка.
oh, доброе утро.
Oh, so you still do
I could
have
get
some.
that. Yes.
You'd still do.
Some
Okay.
passive, yeah. I have some passive German too, because living in Bratislava, you could receive the Austrian television. So you could watch the Western television, even though you didn't understand.
Okay. Now, you
That
came
was a little
here.
treat.
You came here as a student. Where did you come to study?
Well, I was a student, but I didn't come as a student.
Okay.
Yes. After the fall of communism, there were all kinds of people appearing in the country who found a way of making money by teaching English to students. And I, at the time, was already working, and I was working in the center of the town. So that's where all the uprising was taking place. And that's where I met all these American volunteers. And one of them invited me to come to America, and I went. And that's how I found myself in New York City as a student in the summer of 1990. And and I was shocked from what I saw, I have to say. And
You were
I
shocked
worked
by what you
in,
saw. You were shocked by what you saw
yes,
in New York City.
yes, yeah.
What was shocking to you?
Um, when I started dreaming about America, and I believe that was rather unexpected, then I don't even, I don't even know how it started, but I started dreaming that one day I would be living in America while still being in a country that would not let people leave. You know, oppressive countries have this one element that is similar to them. They don't let you to leave them. And so when I started dreaming about living in America, and then finally I found myself in the United States, and I could see all kinds of things that were just absolutely in opposition to everything I had dreamt of, like the family relations, or oh, I don't even know where to start. It was huge. It was the minority population and the way they treated their children, and the poverty levels, and the dirt, and there's just general I don't know, even know, like simple things like basic care. One of the things that I noticed was that many people, and this is silly, but many people had all kinds of orthopedic issues. Like people would have crooked legs and knees, together. I don't even know how you say that. And you don't see that in Slovakia because one professor somewhere suggested that children, when they are born, would be wrapped a certain way, and there was a care provided for everybody. And so you don't see that in Slovakia. And I was wondering, like, how does a country that offers such a freedom and for me it was a place where I so longed to go to experience this freedom, and I saw the simplest things not working, and that people were not taking care of each other, and were like the family relations were awful. And New York City was awful. I think New York City has its specifics. It's really raw and rough. But it's so many years ago, and I had that epiphany back then that America needs a change. It needs something that it didn't
Can you describe
experience.
something in New York City specifically that was shocking to you or upsetting to you? Like a specific example.
Okay. So, I grew up in a church, even though it was a communist country. They let us because we were a small congregation, and we were constantly being watched and persecuted, but we still had life together and kind of were protected within that small congregation. So I was instilled
Hold on a
certain
sec. Hold on a sec. So
morals.
when you say now you're back in Slovakia, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Can you give be as specific as possible? Give us a specific story so that we have an idea of what you mean by oppression or something like that. Can you describe
Okay.
something for us? And we'll go back to New York in a bit. But
okay. So just few things, Slovakia or Czechoslovakia was the harshest persecution was right after the communists took over in 1948, and then they would turn against everybody who in some way was connected to the West, even people who fought in the Second World War. If they were connected with the British, if there was any connection with the West, that was considered to be a negative thing. And then what started to be negative was if you were connected with intellectia. And my dad, who was a professor, I know he had to make certain decisions because he was also raised in a Christian family, and that's why we had to move from the eastern part to the capital so he could have the job that he had. And in the church, there were people in the 50s who were imprisoned because of the faith. And me as a small child, we were always watched. Like there would be a service, and suddenly in the middle of the service, somebody would loudly come down to the main sanctuary, and you would know that's a guy who was sent there because he didn't know how to behave in the church. Or I would leave Saturday our church because I used to go to the choir, and suddenly two policemen would ask me where was my brother, and I was shocked that they knew I had a brother, and that they knew that he left earlier. And so there was always a terror of knowing that you were being watched. And then in the school, you were asked if you were a believer. And I had many Catholic friends who were a believer, but you were asked to stand up to admit that you believe in God, because wearing a cross was forbidden. I was reprimanded for having when I came to America, and I heard people being told the same thing. I had PTSD.
Wow. So the government told you not to wear a cross?
Well, teachers in the school told me not to.
Was it a government school?
Everything was government. Everything was public.
Everything is government.
Yes. Everything belongs to everybody, right?
Okay. So how did you come to believe in God then? How is it that there's a church if everything is government?
Well, I don't know how it is in other countries, but Slovakia, because it was very rural country, and because of its history, it was very Catholic. The Catholic religion was even, I think to this day, it's like 70% of people confess the Catholic faith. But I grew up in a small, how do you call it? Small religious group. I don't know, a tradition that is very close. And I don't know if you're familiar with them. They were called, or it's very close to the tradition that here is recognized by the name Moravian Brothers.
I've heard of it. Yeah.
Okay. So, those were the people who stood against the Catholic Church because they translated the Bible and believed everybody should be able to read the Bible in their own language and live a simple life by basically reading the Bible and doing what the Bible says and helping others and just live godly life in the community where you can live.
Sounds Protestant to me.
It is Protestant, but yeah. I think it was the tradition is even before Protestant. It was just it starts with John Huss, and that's like 1400s.
He's a big name. Yeah. That's helpful because there's a lot of roots of Protestantism that go back long before Protestantism.
Right.
I mean, Protestants would say it goes back to the Bible, but that's way before Protestantism. And even St. Augustine,
Right. Sometimes, many people had to die for the simplest truth that is written somewhere on the pages of the Bible.
How old were you when you became a believer? You're talking about Christianity,
are believers. Right? Yes. Okay.
Okay.
My parents are believers. My grandparents are believers. So everybody in my family that I had known were believers in the same church. So I grew up in it. And then when I was about 13 years old, I became alive to it. And I went through a regular life and did things that I'm not so happy about, but I have never doubted or walked away or anything like that.
Were you baptized?
Yes, I was baptized when I was 18, and again, if it triggers some people,
Does it?
I was baptized twice.
You were baptized. Did you believe at the time you were baptized?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it might be a little confusing for some folks listening here in the future that everything is government and yet there's a church there. Why didn't the government, when you say a church, you mean a church building, or were these people's homes that were being met in? Was it a church building that pre-existed communism?
Yes, there was a church building that pre-existed communism, but
okay. And still people still went there and the government didn't shut it down?
They had more control, and they were more afraid of people going to Catholic churches than they were afraid of these little congregations. And I think it is just a miracle that God allowed. And I know many people were persecuted, but they did in Czechoslovakia. They allowed these little churches. They kept an eye on you, like we were right behind our church building was right behind the main Secret Service building, which is that. How funny is that? But
maybe some of them became Christians if they listened in.
Well, there are many stories of how those who persecuted the leaders of our church actually gave the biggest favors during the harshest times, and yeah.
So you use the word terrified. Did you feel, how often were you afraid, do you think, as you look back?
Well, I grew up afraid of police all the time. Like people were smuggling Bibles, or there were many visitors who were coming, and any time where you were in contact with somebody coming from the West, you knew you were being watched, and you knew there would be consequences of you being in touch with the people from the West. But somehow, and I don't know the details, but somehow, like we would have summer camps in the birth house of our pastor, and we would have a missionary from Holland coming there and having the whole week with us and teaching us and stuff like that. And it was quite common. So we were able to have contact, but everything was secret. We were aware that if somebody knew about it, or if somebody called somebody on us, there would be an issue. But somehow we were protected and blessed, because that was very unusual to be able to hear from people from behind,
Right. Did you have guns growing up?
So, well, we had to be trained to shoot in the school. That was a part of a regular phys ed, because those Americans were coming, and we had to be prepared to defend. Yes, rifles.
And this is how old were you when you learned how to shoot a rifle?
Well, it started in the 8th grade of middle school here, and then every year in high school. So.
Really, every year? Wow. So you were trained in firearms?
Yeah.
By the communist teachers to
be ready, and throwing grenades. Yes,
throwing grenades.
Stuff.
Wow. Yeah. That sounds like an idyllic childhood, actually. So you were learning to resist the Americans.
Yes, yes, yeah. We had
That's
bunker
interesting.
in our school, so we also learned how to run there and how to put the masks on and how to protect yourself in case you throw an atomic bomb on us.
Were
Yeah.
you afraid of the Americans as a kid?
No, I did not trust. I grew up knowing who is the enemy. So I knew the communists were the enemy. So everything they told us, I knew it was a lie. So living like that.
That's quite amazing. How did you know, as you're saying, as a little kid being trained to shoot Americans, how did you know at such a young age that that was a lie? That the Americans were something to be afraid of?
Well, I don't know, but by the time, well, I'm thinking what could have, in 1968, I don't know if you know that there was something that they called a spring. I think it was called the spring during
When
in
you
Czechoslovakia.
say they, I don't know who you mean by they called. Who's they?
I mean the government. I mean the communist government. Sorry, wanted to change the regime and kind of loosen all the regulations and everything, and they wanted to change the government into what they call the communism with the human face. And
I
they
remember
opened the
that. Yeah,
borders.
that's
You
right. I
remember?
remember that.
Okay.
Yeah. That's right.
So I
Yeah,
only read
there was some
about it.
kind of reform or something, but that was before
Yes,
your
yes.
memory, right? Okay.
Right. So, I was 1 year old, but this is from what I read. But the government was called back to Russia, and this is during the Brezhnev's era. And whatever happened there, they came back, and many of them lost their positions, and the Russians then invaded Czechoslovakia in the summer of '68 and stayed as occupiers ever since. So they had their army bases all over the country. And so I think the general.
I do remember that. Yes, that's right.
You remember.
Yeah.
So I think ever since, I would think that the general air about the communism was that it's against us. So the air has changed. Not many people, unless they were in power and they oppressed everybody, the people under, they all were against the regime.
So there was a foreign influence from the Russians to double down on communism and atheism.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. And there was a sense among the people. Is it correct that there's a sense among the people in the late 60s that there's something foreign about this communism being pushed in from outside of the country?
Right.
From Russia.
Right.
Okay.
So you did all those things that they expected, but you were resentful or you took it as a joke. So we all were doing it, but nobody, believed in it anymore.
So you're saying it was common feeling in the town with the people your age and other people that you try not to make trouble with the government, but at the same time, that what you're being told by the government is not true about communism, but you're not going to fight it. Okay. Because you're afraid?
Yeah. It felt I guess it felt too big to even consider. That like those people in 1968, they were in government and they tried, and now who are you to think you can change it? Kind of feel.
That makes sense.
I guess
that makes sense. Yeah, Russia is very big. Very powerful. Yeah. Okay. So, were you more afraid of the Soviet Union than America when you lived there?
I was never afraid of America.
You were
I
never afraid of
just
America.
no, I just I longed to go there because I believed that all the propaganda that they were feeding us was just the propaganda. Okay, all these lies. All right, again, what else can you say? And I did not believe any of it.
Okay, now Danka, I'm going to ask you to pull up some memories because there's some people here that enjoy firearms, and they're going to be upset if I don't ask you specifically which firearms you were trained on. Were you trained on the AK-47?
I
What were you
doubt
trained
it
on?
was a case. I think it was.
Did it have a bolt that you pulled back? A bolt? What kind
Yes,
of? Okay, so it was an old gun,
but
old
it was an
rifle.
old gun. Yes,
Old, okay.
and you had to put 2 bullets in. So I don't know what it was. Maybe it was just a simple air gun. I don't know.
Might have been an air gun. Okay.
Yeah.
And were you trained on handgun,
No.
pistol? No pistol. Okay.
No pistol.
All right, everybody. I asked, so you can. That's the only part they wanted to hear about, and now we go back to New York City. So New York City. Remember we were talking about New York City, and you were
Yes.
talking about you got there, and there were some things that were wonderful, but at the same time you were disappointed in what you saw. So tell
Right.
us about. Can you give us some examples, maybe one or two? A good example of something that you remember from New York City that disappointed you.
Um, well, remember we were being fed about the capitalism and how awful it is and how destructive it is, and everything that I had heard was dismissed as propaganda in my mind. And then I found myself in New York City, and in a family of the teacher who had invited me, and I was observing the relations in the family, and then I got to see some other families, and it felt like the simplest things that I had not seen before were happening, like the disrespect, the dishonor,
You're saying
betrayal,
disrespect of
like
the parents to the children, or the children to the parents? Or
children to the parents,
okay.
children to the parents,
So the American kids are brats.
like something had been lost, something basic had been lost or was never there. Lack of love and just I don't know, like that's when you come to Slovakia, you still can see that family is everything. I did
Yeah,
not see that here,
right.
you know.
So you're saying that
Uh,
you had to respect your parents when you were a kid?
I didn't even think about it. It was just a common thing. Yeah,
Did your parents spank you for being
yes.
disobedient? You were spanked?
But like my mom did. My dad slapped me being a psychologist 3 times. That's
Did
all the
children,
physical.
was it common for parents to spank their kids in Slovakia for being disrespectful
Yes,
or disobedient? Okay.
yes, yeah. To
Uh,
this day, it's very common.
to this day,
Yes.
in New York City, in this situation with your living situation, the family, what was their beliefs? Did they go to church?
They were
The
Catholics.
the
Yeah, they were
Americans?
Catholics.
Okay.
Catholic Italians, yes, several generations of
Okay.
Italians, yeah.
Do you think that they were Republicans or Democrats? Do you recall?
Um,
Did they live in the
Actually,
city?
I know they lived in the city, yes.
Queens? Where did they
I
live?
don't remember. They lived in Queens
Okay.
and Long Island.
Long Island. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So how many kids, how many sisters and brothers do you have?
I only have one brother.
Okay. What's his name?
Um,
I promise I won't report
Jan.
him.
It's Jan. It's John. John, English John. So
Yeah,
it's Jan.
Jan Hus.
J. Yes. Yeah.
Same thing. Yeah, Jan.
Yeah.
I promise I won't call him Jan. Okay.
No, that I don't go. So
I
that
will
was
not
one
call him Jan.
thing that, yeah.
Okay. So how
A
many
few
kids?
more things though about
How
New York.
many kids were in the New York family?
4.
4 kids. Okay. So this was a chaotic household.
Well, they were all grown up, so you would think that by the time everything is okay, but there was what I would call, if I would call it today in some way, I think there was a lot of personality disorder issue happening there. Like, and I feel like I came to New York and I saw a lot of people with mental disorders, which were at the time considered to be normal. Like people were acting as if that was the way of life.
Did they
morally,
ever talk about Rudy Giuliani that you recall?
I think he was not in power when I went there.
No,
He
he was a U.S.
became.
attorney at the time.
Oh, okay.
So he was in power.
I have
but he
to
wasn't.
disappoint it. Yeah. Okay.
So American politics were not discussed in the household. Is that right?
No.
Okay.
All that was discussed in the household was just popular culture, which was to
Popular
me
culture.
another thing that was like, yes,
Yeah.
like this actor did this and this
Sure.
boxer did this. And
Okay.
so that was another thing that
Did they go to
seemed like
Bibles?
very shallow.
Did they go to Bible study
studies? No.
through the time?
No.
No Bible study. Okay.
No Bible study.
Just checking. No Bible study.
A father was a teacher.
Okay. What did he teach? Do you recall?
High school. I don't remember. Yeah.
All right. How long did you live with this family?
For about 6 months.
What did you do after?
Well, I went back to Slovakia.
For how long?
I was in America for a few months because then I got married to this man who invited me. And I went back to New York City and I lived in Queens for about 3 years. And then I went back to Slovakia and lived there for like 16 more years. And I'm back in America again.
Hold on, you got married.
So I came to America.
You got married to Tom?
Tom is my present day husband, yes.
Was this the original?
I was married to a New Yorker before too.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
I just was checking. So you got married to an American?
Yes.
Okay. But then you were living in Slovakia with your husband?
Yeah, he came eventually. Yeah.
Oh, okay. What was it like after
I just
communism in
couldn't.
Slovakia?
It was lovely.
What was lovely?
It was
Because
wild,
we don't know
lovely.
how people made the money. How did people make money during communism? And did that change how they made money?
Yes, definitely. Yes. Well, many things have changed. During communism, you are not allowed to have any private business. Everything belongs to everybody. Everything belongs to the state. So there's no unemployment. Everybody has a job. Even though you don't do anything at the job, you still get paid. Everybody gets paid little money. So everybody is somewhat the same, so
sounds like you're talking about California. I mean Slovakia.
Oh well, yeah. So no, you don't really talk much about money because money is not an issue, but people are the same everywhere, and everybody's envying if you have a little more than somebody else. But basically, they made sure that those that were under the powerful ones, that they would have some little money. And you could travel within the countries of the former Warsaw Pact countries. So that's about as far as you could get, but everything else was closed. You couldn't get out unless you were a special person, which I wasn't. So that was the life, You learn to
That
rely
was a
on your
life
family
that was under
under the
communism,
communism.
and then you came back from New York. How long did it take for things to change?
Well, they're still changing. But I remember when we were protesting during the uprisal and before the fall of communism, and all the speakers at the squares and everybody were saying it was going to take 20 years for the regime to change and for everything to be implemented. And I remember that was just, it seemed so long and seemed like an eternity. And I remember, looking at things after 20 years of all those changes and realizing that a lot has changed. But I think many changes that were implemented were, again, not for good of the people. But right after the fall, it was lovely. During those times, I believe that when people had hopes that the society could really be free and that we could really do whatever we wanted, people were experimenting left and right with this freedom, and it was crazy, and it was beautiful. And especially people from my church, because the freedom was preached in our church. They were ready to go out there to the world and implement everything that they had on their heart. So many started new companies and all kinds of initiatives. To these days, many Christian principled activities or firms and companies are still very active, and they win all kinds of prizes. And I see those principles just validated left and right, that they work. And so I'm really proud of all those people.
Yeah. Things are better in Slovakia now than they were when you were when you were a kid.
Everything is more colorful and beautiful. Did you notice how everything in America became grayish? We have black and white houses everywhere. It's like little prison here in Jersey. People love their gray kitchens. And so, Slovakia became more colorful.
So now, what do you think is making America gray and bad? Now, why would you want to become an American?
Because I still believe that the country is the country of free and brave, and that, when I look at Slovak children and American children, I see a lot that I wish our children would have, and they still don't have it, which is courage and boldness. And they don't have a lot of garbage or generational stuff. They have something else. I don't know. It's like the air is different. There is difference in the air.
There's a difference in the air in America?
Yes, yeah.
Different from what?
I think some battles have been won in America that have not been won yet in Europe.
I think it affects the land. Hold on, say that again. Some battles have been won in America that have not been won in Europe. Is that right?
In Europe. Yeah.
Can you
Yeah.
be
Yes.
specific about that? Because I have no idea. A lot of people might have no idea what you mean by that.
Well, just looking at the Constitution and what it says, like the free speech thing, or the governance by the people and we the people, and all this stuff is something that is still not common. The mindset of if there is a problem that I can take care of it is not common. More of the what you see in is it Uvalde? What was that, Uvalde? I don't
You're talking
remember
about
the
the
name.
recent
Is
school
that how?
murders, the murders that happened in
Yes, yes,
school in Texas. Yeah,
yes.
I don't know how
Like
to say the
when I
town.
saw or what? Okay, but that's what I'm talking. Like when I don't know the truth yet, but when I observed the police reacting the way they did, it's waiting for somebody else to make a decision to act. That's very common in Europe. You don't take initiative. You're waiting for somebody else to make that decision, so you don't step on anybody else's toes. But what I saw before in America was that you see a problem and you run to solve it. And I think that's more American than.
So your original view
that.
of America, you think, is actually closer to the design of the country and how it was designed to give people freedom to solve their own problems, solve the problems that come up.
Yes. Yes.
So you think America is becoming more like communism? Like there's an attempt to try to do that?
Well, yes, I started, I came back 13 years ago, and it became more and more prevalent that what was happening, especially, because of the way that my brain works. I kind of perceive things more than I think about them. And so when I started seeing all those color changes, that was like the first sign for me that what is this attraction with gray? I don't know if you see it in California, but in New Jersey, suburbia, everybody has now a gray kitchen, and the houses are white with black window trimming. I don't know. Is that happening in California?
No, it's not.
And so it looks like you're, surrounded by places that look like little prisons from the communist Czechoslovakia to me. And
Okay.
and so
Right.
those were the first signs. And then of course I work in the public education system, and
Oh, I didn't know
seeing
that.
how
Hold
people
on.
were afraid.
Hold on. See, I never knew that.
Oh,
So you work in a public school.
oh, yes.
What do you do?
Well, I work with autistic students as an aide.
Okay.
So it's the position in the public education where you cannot change it much, But I am a special ed teacher, but don't have certification. So that's why I am in the school again at this time. So I am
What do you notice
a
about
student
this?
again.
What do you notice about the schools that bothers you, that you don't think conforms to the idea of America?
Well, everything good that I have learned in my life was from American teachers that would come to Slovakia. So all the strategies and everything that I had used was from Americans. Everything about touch and the importance of touch was from the Americans. And then I would come to America, and suddenly you realize you cannot do this and you cannot do that and you don't do that. And when you work with autistic students who who are 3 years old, who come into the classroom and scream and yell and run around and throw themselves, and you are not allowed to touch them. You realize that something is not right here. And yeah, so I would have more questions than answers, and I saw that the common sense is lost, and that something rotten has happened, and I don't know what to say. I feel like this needs to change again. This is not right.
That makes sense. Now, do you still love America then? Obviously you became an American citizen, so what do you like about America?
Yes.
If anything.
Well, no, I do. You would be surprised. It took me some time, and I needed actually to ask God to help me to love America again. And he did it. So now there is enough beauty here. It's just that a lot of things has been corrupted, and this would take many discussions to talk about all of that. But I don't know if you I don't know where, well, kind of, I know a little because I read things where you stand, but I feel that
I'm a communist, just FYI.
it's almost like you are in the war.
I'm a communist. I'm an atheist.
Yeah.
And I voted for Barack Obama and Bernie Sanders,
Yes.
both of them at the same time. And Joe Biden. And in fact, I fill out a ballot for Joe Biden every day still.
Yes.
Sorry, you have to have a sense of humor, because otherwise you go crazy. You go crazy without a sense of humor. Sorry.
Yes.
You were saying.
Yeah. Well, you helped me a lot also while you were still a professor, writing all your observation and all the stuff that you had to face, That's why I felt like I needed to encourage you not to give up, because the battle is fierce. But there is a lot to fight for, and if we if America gives up, if America does not stand for the values that created it, nobody else will. And you see how Canada, who is right here next to us, is so easily giving up on everything. It's just like, I can't believe what's happening there. So yeah, we need to stand whatever.
Can you give a specific
for those truths?
Can you give a specific example about Canada that bothers you?
Well, I have been listening to podcasters a lot, ever since Trump started running for presidency, and I realized that I know nothing of the American politics. I'm just an ordinary person. I don't listen to the news. I had to turn it off because I just couldn't. Like, we don't have cable or anything like that. And I started looking for people who were talking about situation and searching news as I used to during communism, because in that regime, you never learn anything from the newspaper. You had to learn and develop a skill of reading between the lines if you wanted to learn anything close to the truth. And so I started listening from different people. Like there was this a Polish pastor that somehow came across my screen, who was arrested during the COVID because he wanted to keep the service, and the police would come and wanted to shut him down. Are you aware of him?
Yes, I have seen something. I'm not sure his name, and I don't know if it was the same one. It might be more than one person.
Well, I think his name is Arthur Pawlowski or something like that. And So
Yes, he was
that caught
arrested.
my
I think he was
attention.
arrested by the police for having a church service.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And then he was persecuted more. And then there were some other things happening, like the law that has been passed, and certain things that were against the churches that just right now I can't remember, but I just couldn't believe that they would tolerate this. I wasn't prepared for talking about Canada, so I don't exactly know what it is, but I just remember everything that Mr. Trudeau is saying. It just gives me itches, whatever. I start scratching when I hear him speaking, because he's so kindly oppressive that I can't take it.
Well, I'm glad to be of service to you. I hope I'm helping. Your husband seems to like me, so that's good. I've never met you guys in person, but it's always nice to, yeah. I think your husband says, come over here and have a cigar. I think he says that.
Yes, yeah. That's what he does with his friends. Yes.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Do you tell me what it was like when you were going through the ceremony of becoming a citizen? What was that like? Did you have to take a test?
Oh, yeah. I don't know if you are familiar with the process of becoming a citizen.
I am familiar with I'm
pay.
familiar with the process that I went through. And the process I went through was I was born. And so I was like really relieved when I was born.
Yes.
I was really relieved because that I was like, not only am I a citizen now, but my mom can't kill me. So it was great. I somehow dodged a bullet on that one. Sort of still vulnerable though. And she did spank me. So, but I don't blame
know
I
how
don't
you
blame
made
that
it.
on
Yeah.
I don't blame that on Roe versus Wade though. But yeah, I'm glad that my mom spanked me. I don't remember exactly why, but I have a feeling that it was probably, at least in maybe most times, it was probably appropriate, I think. But anyway, so tell us about the ceremony. For those who don't know what it's like, the test, the process.
Well, you have to qualify for it. So there are many things you need to be eligible for before you even apply. And then I didn't want to become a citizen because I didn't want to lose my other citizenship. But then when I realized that they changed the legislation in Slovakia and I could still keep my Slovak citizenship, I was glad that I could do this. And so you apply, you pay a hefty fee. I don't know what it is now. It was almost $800 to apply, and then you wait for them to respond to you and tell you that they have a place for you to come to be tested, knowing English and knowing the history of America and politics and some legislative laws, So I had to find out who is my representative and who is the congressman and how many we have here and how many states and a lot of stuff from the history. And then it took a year and a half for me to get an appointment. And when I got there, the test is really a joke because they ask you to write one sentence in English So anybody can pass it, really. And the sentence was like the capital of United States is DC, Washington, or something like that. And yeah, they ask you like 3 questions or from the test, and that's it. And then your schedule for your oath. And I had to wait for that another 5 months to be scheduled for the oath. And then because of the COVID, still nobody else could be present, just those people who were being sworn. And
Wow.
and it was interesting.
How ridiculous is that? Jeez.
Yeah.
Were
And,
you afraid to get
long.
sick while you were doing the oath?
No, it was
Nobody's
a month
afraid
ago.
of that.
So
yeah, geez.
Yeah.
What a bunch of crap.
And we had to sit, 6 feet apart still. And
You have to
and the
be
family
kidding me.
was in
Are you
another room.
serious?
My husband.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Oh
Yeah.
my God. The family was in another room?
Yes.
I cannot
they
even
were not
imagine
allowed to
what the
come in.
hospitals are like there. Oh my gosh.
I don't know. But it wasn't like that before. People who remember it from the times before, like they said the whole room would be full and the whole family would be there. Not this time. So it was not very celebratory, but I remember this one thing from saying the oath, that I had to renounce any agreements with any king and any princess, and I had to swear my allegiance to the United States. And so I said, okay, I renounce every allegiance with the king, but God himself. And that was it.
Did you swear under oath? Did you swear to God?
Wow.
I mean,
No, I think you
who are you making
swore
the oath to?
to the United States.
Okay. But under what authority though?
Now you ask me a question. I just remember when they asked me to renounce I don't think they say "so help me God." It's a very old language. It's like some words I couldn't even understand what I was repeating. It would be interesting to find out what you're actually swearing. But
if you heard that language again, would you recall it?
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find it. Let me see if I can find it here. The naturalization oath. Let's see here. I hereby declare on oath that I absolutely and entirely renounce. Does this sound right?
Yeah, so far so good.
Let me see if I can share my screen here. All right, I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to make it bigger. Those who are listening on Apple Podcasts, I know you cannot see this, but we'll read it to you. I hereby declare on oath that I absolutely and entirely renounce and abjure all allegiance and fidelity to any foreign prince, potentate, state, or sovereignty, of whom or which I have heretofore been a subject or citizen, semicolon, that I will support and defend the Constitution. Hey, I like that. That's me saying that. And the laws of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Wow. Cool. I like that. Anybody who is against the Constitution is an enemy, huh? Even domestic. Got it. That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and I will bear arms. Oh, this is getting even better. On behalf of the United States when required by the law. That I will perform non-combatant service in the armed forces of the United States when required by the law. That I will perform work of national importance under civilian direction when required by the law. In other words, you're going to be available if there's some kind of emergency where we're invaded. That's me.
Right.
That's not part of the oath. And back to the oath. And that I take this obligation freely without any mental purpose or without any reservation or purpose of evasion, semicolon. Why don't you read the rest of it there, Danka?
So help me God. Yeah.
Very interesting. Fascinating. Take a screenshot of that. Yeah, so help me God. Did you say the last part?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you swear that you said the last part? What were you comfortable saying that oath?
Yes. Yeah. I just remember the part where I said, where it said to renounce any foreign prince.
Uh-huh.
I said, but you God.
Okay, good.
Because,
Sure. Yeah. And by prince, they didn't mean the rock star because he died a while ago. He died back in 2016.
No, they didn't mean the rock.
And they didn't mean Michael Jackson's
No,
son.
but it did surprise me. Yeah.
Who I didn't know was called
But that's
Prince.
how old is
Until he was my
how
student.
old is this oath?
the same semester Prince died. All right. Well, sorry, I'm talking over you. I think we're having internet issues here. But Danka, Danka, does your name mean thank you in Slovakian? What does the name Danka mean? Does it mean anything?
It's in German. It's
okay.
No, it doesn't mean anything. We have a tendency in Slovak to change the names into like more familiar form.
Yeah.
So you would be Lukashko. You would be Lukashko, and I'm Danka.
Really, Lukashko. Wow. I'm going to start going by that. I'm going to start going by that here in California. Lukashko. I bet people treat me better. If they think I'm Ukrainian or something, they think I'm Ukrainian, then all of a sudden they start, giving me rights. They're like, oh, you can have a gun, Lucas. No, it's Lukashko. Oh, well then, yes, let's give you more guns.
Oh.
Danka,
by the way, I am a gun owner. You know that? Do you know that I'm a gun
really?
owner?
I don't think I knew that. Danka, you're a gun owner? Danka,
Yes.
why did you wait till the end to say that? We should have started with that, and then in the
know
middle.
That was like the major thing to say.
That's really what I wanted to see.
I didn't know.
Talk about. Did you? What kind of gun do you have?
Oh well.
What kind of gun do you have?
I have Magnum 3. What is it? Yeah.
Don't be shy. 357.
What did you say? Sorry.
You're saying a 357 Magnum?
Yes.
It's a revolver?
Yes.
What kind? Yes. Who makes it? What's the company?
Oh, please. I don't know.
Oh, you're killing us. Because there's several companies. Is it a Smith and Wesson?
Okay, maybe when my husband passes by,
Is it a Ruger? Is it a Colt? Is it new or old?
No, it's a new. It's probably Smith Wesson.
All right.
I'll ask my husband.
So it's new. That means if it's a Smith and Wesson, it's got a Hillary hole. Yeah, please do, and I'll put it in the episode notes. What the do you have ammunition for it?
Yes.
Okay, good. And you know how to shoot it? You know how to
yeah, I'm pretty good.
And it's safe. You know how to do it safely?
Yes, I know how to do it safely. But what upsets me in New Jersey is that it's useless.
Tell us
You
more.
have to keep the lock. You have to keep the lock on the gun. You have to have gun in the container, right? You have to have it at home. You can't carry it with you. So what's the purpose of it?
You cannot take it to the shooting range?
Well, you can take it to the shooting range, but when I wanted to have a gun, because that's part of this freedom thing, I wanted to have it in the car. I can't do it.
Okay.
Although I heard that there
Well,
was some legislative change that might somehow permit me to do that. Wasn't there
well,
something that was
yesterday there was a major Supreme Court decision in the case of the New York Rifle and Pistol Association, which is right across the river from you,
right?
overturning as offensive to the Second Amendment of the Constitution and the 14th Amendment, which incorporates the Second Amendment against the states, against the Democrat states. That the Democrat states and any Republican that wants to go along with the Democrat state, they have to respect the right to bear arms in public for self-defense. And that means that you have to be able to take it outside of your home, loaded and ready for self-defense. And the state cannot prevent you from doing that. Okay, so now there's now a process.
Let's see.
There's now a process in place.
They will let me.
Yeah. Well, there's now a process in place and there's a fight. They're going to fight any way they can. But the thing is the way they fight will have to change, because previously they would just make a law to strip you of your right to self-defense. Now they can't do that. So they have to find other ways, and they probably are not going to be very good at it, because you can now sue them in court. So yeah, that's good. And today, Roe versus Wade was overturned. We're recording this on June 24th, 2022. And Roe versus Wade was overturned 6-3 today. Yesterday, New York Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruin was overturned. The May issue in terms of concealed carry permits across the country now. And that will mainly affect 6 states.
So good news.
Six Democrat states. Yeah. They're all Democrat states. Hawaii, California, New York, Maryland. What are the other ones? There's 2 more, I forget. Yeah, I'll have to look it up.
With that.
Yeah, I'll have to look it up. Maryland and it might be New Jersey, actually. I'm not sure. But anyway, Danka, we are so grateful for you coming on and sharing a little bit of your story. Is there anything else you want to leave us with? Anything you want to tell America? All Americans?
Yeah, just keep fighting, and you have a good ground, and don't forget that all your freedoms are based on the promises given by God, and that He is on your side, and just keep going. The fight for good is not easy, so don't be discouraged.
That's very encouraging. Thank you for that.
Yep.
Thank you for becoming an American citizen.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a pleasure to be part of this, because I know the change is in the air, and today is a proof of it. So
yes.
Yeah.
Danka, is there anything that you would like to tell people that are not Americans that might be listening to this?
Oh, wow. You have people who are not American listening to this?
Yes. We have an
Okay.
international audience. It turns out there's people around the world that care about America for some reason.
Wow.
Hello to you wherever you are. I don't know where you are, but hello to you. Hello from America. We are so grateful you're listening. Hello.
So one thing is that whatever you hear in the news is a lie. So learn to of information and remember that when Americans are fighting for the right to bear arms, it's for the right to defend the truth and freedom. It's not for some crazy reasons that that you might read of in the papers or television. Since you are standing for the right to bear arms as one of many.
Yes. Okay, that's a good word, Danka. Well, I hope that you tell Tom, your husband, I said hello. I would love to meet him someday.
I will.
And have a cigar.
He hasn't been around, so I couldn't ask him what was the gun, but some other time I'm sure he will volunteer that information.
Okay. Yeah, let us know what the make and model of it is. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Danka.
All right.